All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Jake Hammond with the Peoria Innovation Alliance, and welcome to the next edition of Whiskey Talks. I haven't been able to do this for a while, but Meg and Andrew and the rest of the crew have been doing a fantastic job. So just wanted to give a shout out to them for the past several months of interviews and stuff. So glad to be back with you. And tonight we're talking about Civic Innovation Challenge. So we have kind of a special guest, but somebody who's pretty involved in everything, especially community-wide here, Joshua Gunn, who's the new, well, not so new anymore, I guess, CEO and head of the Peoria Area Chamber of Commerce. So first, Joshua, I just wanted you kind of maybe introduce yourself, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit about what we're going to be doing here in a couple weeks.
Sure, man. Thank you, Jake. Yes, I'm Joshua Gunn, President and CEO, Peoria Area Chamber of Commerce and CEO Council. I think I've been here 4 months now or something like that. So I guess I'm still kind of new, but feeling pretty comfortable. And really excited about the conversation. I did not bring any whiskey to the whiskey talk, so I'm a little disappointed in myself for only bringing water. However, we'll have a great conversation nonetheless.
All right, hold on one second. It says we're not streaming on, oh, it is streaming on Facebook. Okay, just want to make sure that we are. Okay. So anyhow, Joshua, one of the big things when you came to town, right, that you were kind of gifted with, right, was the Big Table Greater Peoria initiative. So for those that are on, online that maybe aren't familiar with that, or those that have heard of it, maybe kind of go through and just kind of explain what that process has looked like, what you knew about last year's, but what happened this year, because we went all virtual, of course, and how that's kind of led to where what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, man. The Big Table is quite honestly one of the things that I was most excited about before I came to Peoria, right? I, going through the interview process and looking through the job, you Google Peoria and you sort of look for good things, right? Google's not as friendly to Peoria as maybe it could be. But the Big Table popped up and I thought it was a tremendous effort. It's really designed to break down the silos that we live in, right? And get people who may not typically communicate with each other on a daily basis around a table in a room together to talk about really important issues in the community. And what it really boils down to is talking about the key challenges that we face as a community and getting a truly inclusive group of folks together to work on those problems or start to talk about them. And that's really the impetus of the Big Table. It's a region-wide effort here in Peoria. The CEO Council, we are one of the lead entities in sort of organizing and facilitating the discussion. Shout out to Audrey Cam in our office, who's a big leader in that effort. But it's really region-wide. The area chambers from everywhere, Morton, East Peoria, Washington, and of course here in Peoria participate the Greater Peoria EDC, Peoria Innovation Alliance, Startup Peoria, sort of all of the Peoria CVB, all these sort of area leading organizations participate. And what we hope to do is create a truly inclusive model where it's just not the usual suspects, so to speak, but the entire community of the Greater Peoria region sitting around and really dealing with the big picture issues that we share.
Gotcha. Thanks for that explanation. So for those that don't know, so there were four key areas we talked about at the Big Table, right? So workforce, inclusion, diversity and inclusion, innovation and entrepreneurship, and quality of place. So just kind of from my perspective, I wasn't in all sessions. I was in, I think, 3 of them, but a lot of similar themes, I guess, this year, kind of across all of them, and they kind of crossed over with what we heard and the results that we saw too. So maybe talk just from kind of your perspective too. What did you see within each one of those as some of the key takeaways? And then we'll kind of get to what we narrowed it down to for what we're going to be doing with the Civic Innovation.
Yeah, no doubt. First is worth saying that the pivot to virtual was something that we weren't. The beauty of the Big Table is the ability for people to really interact with one another. It's better in a physical face-to-face environment, right? So we were a little nervous about how it would play out, but so overwhelmingly positive. Feedback we received was overwhelmingly positive. My experience was spectacular. We had over 700 people signed up this year, participated this year. Over 900 people signed up. around 300 or so folks at each session across the 4 days. And I thought it was really, you mentioned, Jake, that there's so much overlap between the topics, right? Like we had diversity, and then we may talk about workforce development the second day, but inevitably workforce comes up in the diversity session, diversity comes up in the workforce session, and that theme sort of continues. So what I think that tells us is that the challenges that we face in the community don't exist in sort of those silos, right? It's not like a workforce development challenge exists outside of the scope of innovation and entrepreneurship, quality of place, or diversity, equity, and inclusion. They're all woven. That's why I'm excited to talk about today's topic, civic innovation, which I think is going to build on the work of the Big Table. So sorry for the foreshadowing.
No, that's good. No, so I guess just kind of from my perspective too, I think that's how we got to where we are and what we're talking about tonight with this civic innovation challenges. You know, having those sessions, hearing those topics come up and how they were so intertwined, and really that whole impetus of like, we talked about it, we wrote it down, we captured survey feedback, or you captured survey feedback, you know, from a bunch of the participants. But what do we do with it next, right? It's a great thing to get together and do what it's done in terms of bringing people together in that cross section of the community. But how do we actually do something with it and take some action with it? So in a short time frame and a condensed time frame, right? We're just trying it out this year as Global Entrepreneurship Week is upon us. And if you're not familiar with the efforts that kind of we've been putting forward regionally, a big push for helping new businesses get started and new business creation. So we kind of all put our heads together, and you'll hear from some of the others here in a bit around how can we take those results that we received, actually put them into action and give people some motivation to actually go out and create something, whether it's a pilot program, a project, an organization, all that type of thing. Like we've got problems and challenges here to solve ourselves. So how can we enable others to do that? So
yeah,
I'm going to bring up our slide here, and if you have any other thoughts on that, you're welcome to share them. There we go.
I can't stress how important this is, Jake. I mean, we talk about innovation and entrepreneurship a lot. At least you and I do in our conversations, but it's got to be a massive part of our strategy for as a community moving forward. You know, if we're going to build a greater Peoria, right? If we're going to build a greater Peoria region, innovation and entrepreneurship has to be the foundation of what we do. We can't simply focus on business attraction or traditional economic development. Innovation and entrepreneurship has to be at the foundation of what we're doing. And also, we can't just sit back and admire our problems, right? And point at the problems. Innovation is a way out, right? It's a way towards a solution. So, man, I'm just super excited about the Civic Innovation Challenge. And while it won't solve everything, and we can't do it all in a short amount of time, it's a great step towards a better future.
Yeah, absolutely. And two, just to frame it too, in I guess in context of Distillery Labs and what that's going to be too, right? Of, you know, that's a facility that's going to come online probably sometime later next year. But in the interim, I think it's been pretty cool to see, and you can see kind of here on the right-hand side of the slide, like there's a lot of organizations that, you know, are doing complementary work that are trying to work together towards, I don't know, the programmatic side of things and the community building side of things that will eventually have a home, right, in a place like Distillery Labs. But it's the work that we can't wait on that work. That's what we're doing now, and that's kind of how we're going forward with this. So yeah. With that, I wanted to, also if I start on the right slide, there we go. So based on kind of what we heard, and Ruben's on the call here, but I'm not sure if he's available, but we'll kind of go through. So out of all the results that were tabulated from that survey feedback, we came up with kind of 5 challenge statement topics. These will be a little bit further refined as we go and actually asking questions that we shared. And just a real quick overview for everyone too. So the Civic Innovation Challenge, you see the dates, November 16th through 20th. We'll talk about the schedule a little bit at the end, but what we're trying to do is hold 90-minute workshops each day of the week, Monday through Friday, on the week of the 16th, and inviting the people to come in, pick one of these challenge statements, and you'll hear from Philip and Andrew here soon, but actually then apply entrepreneurial thinking, methodologies, and processes that startups use, essentially, to create these scalable companies to actually tackle some of these challenges that we have here in the region. So hopefully that kind of frames what we're attempting to do. And then the rest of this will help inform how we're going to do it and what we're going to actually talk about. So I'll reveal each one of these. Joshua, if you kind of want to talk through them and what we heard, that'd be helpful. So first one, economy, kind of on everybody's mind, right?
Yeah, of course. COVID-19 is obviously created really catastrophic economic implications for our small businesses and the entire economy in the nation, and of course here in the greater Peoria area. So as we asked for feedback, and Jake, if it's okay, I'll share with everyone what the question we asked was. If you had a magic wand and could solve one problem with that magic wand in your community, what would it be? Right. And so what we're going to talk through now is really what the key responses were. And quite honestly, these things were, what do we have, 4 or 5 areas were in every response in some fashion or another. And the economy is on the top of people's mind right now. You know, how do we bounce back, right? How do we, as we'll talk about, Jake, return to better, right? How do we create an economy that's thriving again on the other side of this pandemic? So that was obviously at the top of everybody's mind and probably the most popular answer.
Yep. All right. Yeah. Equity is the second one.
Yeah, the other is equity, right? One of the things that I've been here 4 months, and I've been blown away by the way that Peoria has identified that we've got some challenges around equity and is not afraid to talk about it, not afraid to put it on the table. And I'm thrilled to see it show up in so many survey responses as one of the key things that magic wand could solve for our community. But we have some challenges with racial equity in our community. We have challenges across the spectrum. Income inequality is a big deal in Peoria, particularly across racial lines, gender lines as well. And innovation and entrepreneurship is a great way to solve for that. So excited to see that as one of the topics.
All right, training, education, I guess it's kind of workforce as well.
That's right. Yeah, workforce development, which aligns with what we heard last year, right? So out of the big table last year, we heard from employers that they're having a big trouble finding what they would describe as a qualified workforce, or people who are trained with the essential skills needed to take the jobs that they need to hire for. So this is consistent with that messaging. Out of that was born GPEAK, right? The Essential Skills Certification Program. But it's good to see that people are still focusing on workforce development, because it's a big part of what we have to do to solve our economy and our equity challenges. Again, you see that interconnectedness between the topics.
Yep, absolutely. Housing,
affordable housing is a challenge nationwide and no different here in Peoria. And I think, again, these things are all interrelated. If we can build our workforce, create better access and equity to the opportunities that we create through innovation, entrepreneurship, and traditional economic development, hopefully people can afford more housing, but we also need to diversify our housing stock a bit. So exciting to hear people say, hey, we want to solve this challenge. This is really a community effort, right? And a selfish wouldn't identify housing as a challenge, right? And that's what I love about Peoria. It's not a selfish community. People are thinking about the other person, their neighbors, and creating a community.
Absolutely. And finally, healthcare and public health. And that, of course, is interrelated with everything else.
COVID-19 has healthcare on everybody's mind. We're fortunate to have a great healthcare community here in Peoria, but I think COVID-19 has sort of elevated or shined a light on some of the inequities in our healthcare system, and in particular, access for the public to the services that they need, whether it be treatment or testing or just general healthcare, right? So this is a really cool one, and that sort of necessity-driven entrepreneurship is happening as a result of COVID-19. So, I wouldn't say there was any surprises here, Jake. We got what we thought we would get. We are, like no year before, we're all very aware of the challenges in our country and our nation. And this is what this is about, taking that conversation and turning it into action, right? Okay, we've talked about it. We had 2 big tables. Okay, what do we do now? And what better time to do that than Global Entrepreneurship Week?
Absolutely. Well, thanks for covering that, Joshua. I'm going to bring you back. We'll bring you back here towards the end. I'm going to invite 2 of the others on, so Andrew and Philip, to kind of talk through. We mentioned using these different tools and stuff and methodologies, and as you were kind of mentioning those different topics, right? It's like all of the, like tackling those things is all kind of surrounded and encompassed by innovation and entrepreneurship, right? We're we're looking at these problems and challenges and applying innovative thinking and entrepreneurial thinking to them to help kind of build them out. So excited to have Andrew on and Philip on. I'll let them introduce themselves and then kind of talk a little bit about a couple of the different processes that we'll use during these workshops to help guide people. It'll be a facilitated discussion, so don't let it freak you out. There's a lot of terminology and buzzwords and stuff. We'll try to keep it simple, but using those, those methods and processes to help come to some type of solution that can be implemented. So first, I'll let Andrew go ahead and introduce yourself. Everybody probably knows you if they've been on Whiskey Talks before.
Yeah. So great to be back. My name's Andrew, Director of Innovation and Startups at the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council. I guess in a former life, if you knew me, I was actually a designer. And so I am so pleased to be here with Philip to share more about the design process.
And hello, I'm pleased to be here for the first time. I'm Philip Lockwood. I wear many different hats, including representing most of those logos on that front page. I serve as the president of the Peoria Innovation Alliance, the director of programming for smart mobility and smart city initiatives for Distillery Labs, have been and one of the leaders of the whole Return to Better initiative. And so my skill set behind that is that of both a social and professional entrepreneur, having created and helping others create new businesses, doing that in a corporate setting, in both the for-profit and nonprofit sectors as well. And I've spent, especially the last 4 years, mentoring 3 cohorts that went through Bradley's Brave Launch program. So we're speaking about, we'll be sharing and speaking about today is proven, and it's proven here in Peoria as well.
All right. Well, thank you, Philip. I'm going to open the slide back up, or the slides back up, and I'll let you guys kind of handle the kind of walking through these different methodologies. So
Great.
1 second here. We already talked through these. One's the wrong slide.
So Philip, what are we talking about today in terms of process?
Well, we have 2 challenges in front of us. One is to harness the momentum that Big Table has created, and then at the same time, sort of reinvigorate that energy and passion we've seen, but now start to focus that on working towards some potential solutions. So we have defined the problems, but now we're working towards the solutions. And secondly, and this ties into the whole concept of working to build this culture and community of entrepreneurship, is also starting to share some methodologies, tools, and some taxonomy that, again, are proven to help accelerate that entrepreneurial journey. And what better way than start with an immersion process by taking the hundreds of people we anticipate for Global Entrepreneurship Week and using these tools and methodologies to try to put some shape to some actual solutions. So we'll begin, and this is really to introduce, for those who don't know, the whole concept of the process of what's called design thinking. So really starting then to do interviews and work towards understanding the problems and what is behind those problems. The next step really is, and I say these in steps, but this is also an iterative and continuous process, doesn't have to go sequential in form. But also it's really about defining the users, or those who are going to be may have the problems, and the potential problem solvers, their personas, what their different objectives are, and the decision-making processes and the challenge they face, and most importantly, the pain points. And from there, then it's starting to create some ideas and work towards some prototypes that then get tested. And that process, the ideate, prototype, and test, is definitely continuous beyond the weeks ahead. And this tool set can be used in everyday work. One thing I must emphasize with this, and especially those first 2 steps, but really in all of them, is that it also requires what's known as active listening. What's best described as active listening is you have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth, and use them proportionately. The best entrepreneurs are the ones who are the best listeners. So they see, hear, and understand problems, and then work towards solutions to solve those problems. So this is a sort of the theory and concept behind how to think about addressing these problems. And then the structure that we're going to use to now address this is working towards building what's known as a business model canvas. The business model canvas is one of the tools that's part of what's known as lean startup methodologies, or lean startup. And lean startup is used for startups, as it describes, but also more and more large organizations, corporations, are using this for internal innovation to, again, put some structure to these processes. This structure is more of a skeleton, so it helps to collect those ideas and then work to refine them. I always warn people, don't try doing this at home by yourself, because the natural tendency is to start and work from left to right. Well, that does not work in this case. This is a process. The process starts at the far right with customer segments, and in the middle with value propositions. And so what we'll be working towards is developing, understanding the customers and what value propositions we can provide for them. Most experienced entrepreneurs are ones who will speak in terms of the problem they're solving, that the frequency, intensity, and duration of that problem, and for whom they're solving, that being the user or customer, and ultimately their value they add for those. Rarely they talk about their solution. So we have to start thinking in terms of problem, the frequency, intensity, and duration, and the users, the ones who have that, and then the value to add to that process to come up with solutions. So we will be leading all the groups through this process, but don't fear, we're not going to try this all at once. Even through an accelerator program, it's about an 8 or 9 week process. So, but have no fear, because we're, the organizations that have been introduced are also part of an ecosystem that we've created and are building to provide the resources to continue this forward. So as we break people into teams, and you know the story, the adage, you want to go fast, you go alone, you want to go far, you go together. Well, in this case, it's going to go far together. And now we're going to be thinking of you as a company, because what is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneurship, it's a firm that creates, aggregates capital and labor to provide value, goods or services that provide value. So that labor is your time, and the capital is the knowledge capital that you'll devote to this exercise. And so next, please. And most of the initial activity, we hope it will be focused here on the whole value proposition canvas. So starting to really understand the user, the customer, if it could be a neighborhood, it could be an organization, it could be a segment of our population, but what pains are they incurring? What gains are they seeking? And what do they go through in their normal day? So again, we're looking to create for the gains, gain creators. So again, helping them achieve their gains, how to improve their performance, and in doing so, make their, in some cases, it may be their job, in others, it's just their daily life easier and better. From the pain, it's, and this is where I think a lot of what was shared at Big Table are the pains. So what is annoying and troubling? And so we need to move past that forum of talking about the pains, but now it's about understanding those pains and what is preventing people from advancing, whether it's in their job or it's in their life, and what keeps them up at night. Now, we all have had sleepless nights from COVID, so that throws an additional challenge in here. We wish we could have the pain reliever for that, but so We may not have it soon, but we still need to recognize that is also something that people are, a pain that's causing people, but it's now, how do we start to help relieve the pains and work to, what problems need to be eradicated? And we've identified lots that we really need to eradicate from our community. And so it's now not the what, but the how do we start to do that? And how do we eliminate the risks that the customers or users fear? And most importantly, how do we start to get rid of the barriers? And the first step in reducing and removing the barriers is recognizing them. And so recognizing, acknowledge them, and then start striving to, at first, we may have to create some, as they say, reasonable accommodations, but ultimately it's to remove those barriers completely. And again, it's how do we make their, from the jobs to be done, it's what are they trying to get done in their work or life? I mean, in some cases, finding a job or the right kind of job. They're they've now been displaced, whether it's due to COVID or because of their skill set. How can they move forward? So what kinds of products and services, in this case, just like one I mentioned, is the education and training. How can that be used as a solution that's going to, again, create, again, the great gain creators, pain relievers, and products and services. So we also, through this process, we'll start shifting from we to they, understanding they is the customer, the user, and the ones. So that we are the ones who are striving to, again, provide a solution that addresses the gains, pains, and jobs to be done, and adds value along the way.
Hey, Philip, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So you've covered a lot. Do you think everybody's going to remember?
Well, we're recommending that this, people, that's why we're doing this today, is to introduce this and for people to use this as the primer for their sessions. We'll also provide this information during the week at the workshops, but also we'll be having facilitators who understand these tools and methodologies to help through that process. Because, how do we measure success out of that week? I mean, obviously, it's moving forward towards some actions to solve the problems that I've identified. We may create 1, 2, or 3 firms, companies that move forward. And we may even have, the ultimate success would be if through this process, we create a brand new business in Peoria, whether it's for-profit or nonprofit, that's going to be devoted to solving some of these problems. And so, again, we introduce these. I realize it's a lot, but what we'll do is we'll continue to build upon these. And so, again, it's really working to create a new mindset and shifting that mindset towards the problem and the solutions for towards those problems.
Absolutely. So when you register and sign up and attend, we are going to be there with you. Philip's going to be there. I'm going to be there. Jake and others are going to be there. So you're not actually going to be doing this on your own. So, if you think that this is overwhelming, it really isn't. We want to come alongside with you and to work with you on these problems together. So don't feel like you're going to be doing it alone, and we'll be there to support you.
Right. And we're also going to be well positioned to continue forward after the Civic Innovation Challenge week that's part of the Global Entrepreneurship Week. Again, because this is important, so important that there's a large group of us who are coming together that will continue to mentor and help make sure that, again, we build on this momentum and really keep the energy level and the passion high towards coming up with some real meaningful solutions and true actions. So we start shifting that mindset as it relates to working to solve the problems we know exist in Peoria. It also creates now a whole set of people who think in terms of solving other problems, which then become, again, building that community of entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, Philip, because really at the end of the day, it's not just about talking about problems, but making the problems personal to us. And so I would ask you, if you're watching, who is and how big is your group of us, right? And thinking about that, we want to make Peoria our home, and we invite you to join us in solving these problems.
Great, thank you.
Jake, over to you.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to have you stick on here for just a second. There's Joshua's coming back. So just wanted to follow on to that great dialogue and some of the tools and stuff that we're using. So Joshua, after, kind of hearing those things, and I know you're already confident about this and excited for this to happen, but, just having the tool set and having some, methodologies to follow and how that's going to make this easier. That's not just there was structure to the big table, right? It's not just a free for all, like everybody throw their ideas out, but there's actually some structure and what we're really ultimately trying to get at, as like Philip and Andrew said.
Yeah. And like that Philip started his segment off by saying, this is proven, right? This is really a scientific method, right? There's a structure to taking an idea and turning it into a viable business, right? And that's what we're talking about, which is important to emphasize. We want this to be community generated, but we're giving the community the tools to take these amazing ideas and hopefully turn them into something that solves a problem, but that also becomes a business.
Yeah. So, and I said about measuring success, I think the real measure of success is how many prototypes are we going to be able to start, and hypotheses are we going to be able to start testing and proving, or either proving or disproving, so we can continue to refine them that leads towards true solutions.
I think the key thing with this too is it's truly in the entrepreneurial nature, just to that point you were making, Philip, but we're not quite sure what'll come out of it. It's not super planned out in terms of what those solutions we've done the upfront work of getting input from a lot of the community and understanding what the real challenges are. So we've done some of that pre-work already through the big table and discussions that gives us a good primer to start from. So now it's actually taking that stuff and actually, as you mentioned, putting some action to it and creating some value and creating some businesses or whatever it might be. So
exactly.
Thank you, Philip and Andrew, again for filling us in. We're going to just kind of close out with a little bit more detail about the week and then take any questions that might exist. So
thanks, Philip. Thanks, Andrew.
All right. So Joshua, I'm pretty excited, of course, as we have been in our discussion. So just to give everybody some background again on the details. So first thing, the key thing, which is, I believe it's already in the chat if you're on Facebook, is to get registered. So we've already had quite a few people register. The website is changegp.com. Makes sense, right? That's what we're trying to do. So you can go there and register. We are offering up, because of obviously the increase in the COVID cases here locally, in-person events are restricted to 25. We want to be mindful of that and be mindful of all that stuff that's going on. So we are going to try to hold a couple on-site sessions, considering that things don't drastically get worse or, in the next 2 weeks. Those will be held at several different places throughout the community. So at the Nest Co-working, at the chamber offices, we're working on getting Mio Creativo up at Northwoods Mall to sign on. I believe they're ready to go. I'm here actually today in Morton at the Hub and Spoke Co-working space. They're on board. And then we're just waiting to confirm with the Minority Business Development Center with Denise Moore in downtown Peoria, just south of downtown Peoria. So we'll have a few different locations. They'll be socially distanced with whiteboards, that type of thing. But there is also in that form an option to do the virtual event. So we'll be doing a couple of virtual groups as well. So just real quick format for those days. So Monday through Wednesday, right? We're going to be doing 11 to 12:30, similar time as the big table over the lunch hour. So we're trying not to inconvenience people with work schedules. And then Thursday, I know Joshua, you've got a an event to promote real quickly on Thursday coming up that week. So
yeah, we've got annual Thanksgiving luncheon, 45th annual Thanksgiving luncheon that Thursday, which will be virtual this year. So for those who are not in the Civic Innovation Challenge, please feel free to us, peoriachamber.org. You can register for a pretty cool event this year. We're being innovative and leveraging virtual technology to make something really cool happen. So yes, I will be in 2 places at one time, hopefully, on that.
Awesome. Yeah, so Thursday is the only day that we'll have a little bit later session. So Thursday we're going to do, I believe, 1:30 to 3 instead of the 11 to 12:30 session. And then Friday is going to be our what we're calling our pitch day. So that one will be inviting the community, the rest of the community, to come in, and the teams that are established will give about a 5-minute presentation on the solution that they've developed throughout the rest of the week. So we're excited about that. The other days, we'll be kind of going through some of utilizing the tools we just talked about, that Philip and Andrew talked about, and kind of working through those each one of the days. Thursday will be primarily focused on building out the solution, and then Friday we'll be presenting that to the public. So that's kind of what the schedule looks like. Once again, the website is ChangeGP. I'll bring up one more time real quickly. Keynote, so you can see that. There we go. There you go. So yeah, changegp.com, November 16th through the 20th. I want to thank all the different organizations that have been a part, as well as the other ones that were a part of the Big Table that are helping us promote this, get the word out there and everything as well. So I think that is all we have, but I wanted to give some time. We've got plenty of time here. Let's see if we have any questions. So let me take a look. So we talked about human-centered design. Yep, websites in the comments. Okay, Joshua, I don't know if you had any other thoughts you wanted to share before we wrap up.
No, man. Look, I don't know if we have any questions coming in, but this is so cool, man. Like for a community to say, man, we've got some real big problems, and problems that some communities might just say, well, we're never gonna fix this, right? But Peoria, in the Peoria area, is saying, hey, we want to pull everybody in on this. Let's get creative and innovative, and let's try and solve these things, man. I just think it's super cool. I can't wait for it. And I think it was Philip that mentioned, how cool would it be if new businesses were born out of this challenge and then set up their shop right here in Peoria? So now we're solving these big problems. We're doing workforce development, economic development, entrepreneurship, innovation. I just get excited about the potential of this, man. Like this is really unprecedented. There's not a lot of places around doing this, particularly in the middle of a global pandemic, right? So
right.
No questions or anything else from me. I'm just ready to get started.
All right. Well, I would just add too, just a couple other things. So we will hopefully have some resources there, some what we kind of call our service providers there available throughout these sessions too. So, you know, as the teams develop an idea or concept that they need a little bit of help with, like graphic design or writing or putting a presentation together, we'll have some resources available to kind of help with that. Also some storytelling resources, right? The key with a lot of this stuff is telling a really convincing and impactful story. And that's not always the easiest to do, but thankfully we have some really great storytellers here in town that we're going to have available. And then also, I think eventually it's probably safe to say down the road, we may not have it ready for Friday, but we are working towards getting some prizes available for this, so that there is some outcome for maybe not even just the winning teams, but all the teams at some point to be able to have something, whether it's services or cash or something like that down the road, to be able to fund some of these ideas. But if not, right, or in addition to that, being able to connect you to resources, and there are a lot of them in the community that fund projects, that fund these types of projects that are really about community impact and making a difference. So I know we're working on that.
We're working hard on
it. So
we're working hard on that. And you know, what we're really talking about, Jake, is the beginning of an ecosystem for entrepreneurship, or the next phase of an ecosystem. There's an ecosystem that exists today. I don't want to say there isn't, but creating a mature ecosystem where entrepreneurs with ideas can go from that early stage to, an exit or a viable business. So, when you talk about the service providers and the support that's there, that's how we create a thriving ecosystem, by giving these brilliant minds what they need to succeed in business.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Do we have any questions?
It doesn't look like it. Just a comment about hoping to see some more degrees available around human-centered design and design stuff here in the area, which I would agree with that. So design thinking is I don't know, it's a really powerful tool, and the tools we're talking about as well as the human-centered design is really important. So it would be cool to kind of see some of those around here. So, but other than that, yeah, no other questions. So thanks everybody for joining us. Joshua, thanks for the dialogue and the conversation, and to Andrew and Philip as well. And make sure you go check out the website, changegp.com, get signed up. Once we get people signed up, we are going to break out into groups of between 5 and 7. So there are smaller teams that are able to be nimble and agile and move forward quickly. So we'll be doing that. We'll also send out some, information on the methods and processes we talked about today for some pre-work leading up to the week of the 16th. So make sure you get registered soon. We'll be sending out more information to those registered, and make sure too you share it with your friends, with those that maybe attended the big table that don't know about this yet, because it's really critical, as we've discussed, right? As we're taking it from just ideas to action, and that's the goal with this event. So
yeah,
thanks everyone for joining.
Can I say one more thing?
Go ahead.
For this to really be impactful, I think we would love to have a really representative sample of the people of Peoria and the Peoria area. So if you're watching this and maybe you don't feel like you're an entrepreneur, maybe you don't feel like this is for you, it is, right? We want people who are passionate about solving big problems and who care about the community to get involved in this. So this isn't just for people who are already entrepreneurs or already doing innovative things. This is really for everyone. So if you're also watching this and you are an entrepreneur, you're already in an ecosystem, you're already plugged into what we're doing, maybe think about somebody who's not traditionally at the table, and let's invite them in, because for this to really be impactful, we need all of Peoria represented. So do that. Let's spread the word. Let's change Peoria for the better.
All right. Thanks, Joshua. I appreciate your time. All right. Thanks, everybody on live and that sees us later. So check it out, changegp.com, and we'll see you later this month.
All right. Peace, y'all.